Daniel Libeskind is known for his crystalline forms and his use of light. Now the renowned architect has a new project in the German capital.
We meet Daniel Libeskind at the construction site for Sapphire, his first apartment complex in Berlin. The building bears Libeskind's standard trademarks. It's light and airy and crystalline in structure. It will house 70 apartments, some of them luxury ones. From the future rooftop garden, residents will have a great view over Berlin. The city is also home to Libeskind's very first building project, the Jewish Museum. It was his international breakthrough and a big success story for the German capital too. 10 million people have visited the museum so far. Some come primarily because of its architecture. Meanwhile, Daniel Libeskind designs and constructs buildings around the globe. Museums, high-rises, and shopping malls. In all his projects, his fondness for crystalline shapes is crystal clear.
Crystal means something which is cut, which is strong, which is robust, which is resilient, which isn't going to deform, which has a very precise form, and which glows in the sun and in the light of the sky. So a crystal is a symbol. It's not just a shape. It's an idea of the beauty.
For his Sapphire apartment complex, light is an important factor, which will be further accentuated by the building's spectacular facade. Its titanium-clad ceramic tiles absorb carbon dioxide and transform it into oxygen, helping to clean the air.
Berlin is not a Mediterranean city. It's a Nordic city. So in the north, when the skies are gray as they are today, you need a material that is interesting, that can enliven and energize the sense of the building and give life to the building for people not only in the building but on the streets.
Daniel Libeskind and his family lived in Berlin from 1989 to 2003. During that time, he developed a special relationship to the city.
I arrived long before the wall came down in Berlin, when Berlin was still a divided city. But I always saw Berlin as a highlight of the 20th century, even across the catastrophes and the voids created by the terrors of that time. We can see Berlin as an inventive city, Berlin as a beautiful city, Berlin as a city of culture, Berlin as a city of art, Berlin as a city of new ideas. So from the very beginning, really, I fell in love with Berlin.
Since the wall fell, Berlin has resembled a huge construction site. There have been big building and demolition plans. Take Alexanderplatz, a major square in eastern Berlin. In 1993, Libeskind took part in a competition to reinvent it.
I say I did not win the competition, but I actually did. Because my idea was, first of all, not to tear anything down. Not to, most older schemes were to tear everything down. Alexanderplatz was supposed to be a tabula rasa for new architecture. I said, no, people are living here. You can, improve the housing. You can invest, make a better hotel. You can improve in the public space. Really, all those fantasies of getting rid of everything and putting in new Alexanderplatz have come to nothing. Because I didn't see anything wrong with Alexanderplatz. Alexanderplatz is a kind of a beautiful place. It needs a lot more things to be happening.
For all his enthusiasm, Libeskind isn't blind to Berlin's weaknesses. It's all too lofty ambitions and often senseless building regulations.
As for the architecture and the general trends, I'm not the biggest fan of just deciding that the height of a building and a certain style of rectangular windows is enough for the city. There's got to be more ambition in Berlin.
This was Berlin's city palace. Heavily damaged in World War II, the East German regime demolished what remained of it in 1950. East Germany built its Palace of the Republic, the seat of parliament, here in the 1970s. After German reunification, it was torn down. Now a replica of the original palace is being built. It's new on the inside, but its facade has been designed to resemble the old city palace or Schloss.
Well, the Schloss is an exercise of fantasy. People have fantasies. It's not my fantasy. But some people have the fantasy that by snapping your finger, you can bring history back.
Berlin has undergone a huge transformation since the fall of the wall, and new challenges crop up all the time.
Berlin needs a lot of ideas. You know, almost on every walk of life, the new ideas are missing. Particularly the idea of affordable housing. It's got more population coming. It needs to develop more high-rise buildings. It needs to have diversity of people living, which means affordability of housing for new people that are needing to live not out there, but here in the center.
Libeskind has designed social housing in China and elsewhere. He has experience in this area both professionally and personally. As a teen, he lived in New York.
I didn't live in a villa or some apartment building in Manhattan. I lived in the Bronx, in the first social housing project built in the United States. We lived very well because there was a social cohesion. There was a belief in the future. There was a belief in improvement. And I think this is what social housing is. Social housing is not just a technical idea of space and amount of, and material, but it is an idea of a community.
Daniel Libeskind is a humanist and philosopher among architects. This Renaissance man started out as a musician, playing the accordion. Now he's trying to bring music and architecture together in a concert project called One Day in the Life, initiated by the Alte Oper Frankfurt. It will take place next May. But to the disappointment of some, Libeskind won't be playing his accordion.
My instrument is no longer a musical instrument in that sense, but it's architecture. Music and architecture both are very technical, very scientific, but at the end, if they don't speak to your soul, they are just computer exercises, simulations. That's a great color there. It wasn't a lighter one.